Few contemporary cinematographers are as well known as Emmanuel Lubezki. Even if he's not a household name, the films he has shot over the years probably are. During the course of his career, he's built up a clinical, clean look that's aimed at immersing the audience fully in the content of the films that he shoots. In this video, I'll be analysing the work of one of the most in-demand DOPs out there, looking at how his opinions on cinematography and the gear he uses contribute to his original visual style. Lubezki, nicknamed Chivo, was born in Mexico City, and it was there that he would later meet and team up with his first and perhaps most important director, Alfonso Cuarón, while the pair were busy studying in film school. They went on to shoot a bunch of films together, such as A Little Princess, Tu Mamá También, Children of Men, and Gravity. After beginning his career on Mexican film and television in the late 80s, he gradually began to DOP local Mexican features, as well as high-budget international features. Over the length of his career, he's won many awards, including 3 Oscars for Best Cinematography, and has worked with many famous directors, such as Mike Nichols, Tim Burton, Terrence Malick, the Coen brothers, and Alejandro Inarritu. This is a case study of the cinematography style of Emmanuel Lubezki. I find that if you want to create an original look and feel, you need to get deep into the world of your own movie and keep focused on that. The principle of creating a world through cinematography that can hold an audience deeply is at the core of Lubezki's style. Total immersion is his goal. This idea forms the basis for him shooting with a clean look that favors a well-exposed image with true blacks in the shadows and maximum resolution. Rather than crushing the blacks too much, or softening up the image in a stylized manner, he likes to maximize dynamic range, creating images that closely replicate the experience of real life, images that try to match what we see with the human eye. He mentioned this as being part of his philosophy when shooting The Tree of Life. The most important rule for me is to not underexpose. We want the blacks. We don't like milky images. Another element of cinematography that he uses to create his clean, immersive look is with his lighting. Lubezki favors naturalistic, motivated lighting. He prefers using minimal touches of light when possible to supplement the natural available light on set. He never overlights. This is particularly true for how he shoots exteriors. First, he will scout locations, noting exactly how the light falls and how it changes throughout the day. Then, he will work carefully on scheduling the exterior scene so that it can be shot at precisely the right time when the natural light works best for the scene. Even when shooting interiors, he feels that in order to create enveloping, true-to-life images, it's best to minimize lighting. When you put someone in front of a window, you're getting the reflection from the blue sky and the clouds and the sun bouncing on the grass and in the room. You're getting all these colors and a different quality of light. It's very hard to go back to artificial light in the same movie. It's like you're setting a tone, and artificial light feels weird and awkward after that. Using minimal lighting when possible on set also helps free up space for his style of movement. He's worked on many films with groundbreaking grip rigs and also more traditional rigs at times. Regardless of the equipment used, his method of moving the camera is often expansive, moving through large areas of space, sometimes in long takes. Minimizing the amount of lights on set by using as much practical and natural light as possible frees him up to shooting in this expansive style without worrying too much about avoiding the lighting gear in the frame. Using long or extended takes also adds to the illusion of reality. A film that cuts too often potentially makes the audience more aware that they're watching a film. A film broken up to long, extended takes of camera movement creates a building feeling of riveting, real-life suspense. At the forefront of achieving the clean look that Chivo loves is the gear that he uses. Before the digital age, he he always favoured creating the most pristine image possible. This he achieved through shooting the finest film grain stocks, using the most perforations. 35mm cameras can be configured in different ways so that more or less of the 35mm negative is exposed to light in each frame, creating a bigger or smaller negative. Unlike in digital, which is measured in pixels such as 720 pixels or 1080p, on film this is measured in perforations or perfs. It's possible to shoot 35mm film in 2, 3 or 4 perf. Lubezki favors shooting 4 perf for maximum resolution and a cleaner image with less grain. He usually shoots spherical as opposed to anamorphic. Since digital cameras have improved, he now prefers it over shooting film, favoring the cleaner image that digital sensors can produce. The thing that I don't like about film, and have never liked, is grain. Some people call it texture, but for me, when you start seeing grain, the movie becomes a representation. It's almost like putting a veil between you and the subject. In his older work, he shot on film cameras such as the Arri LT or the Arri 235, which he favors for their more compact ergonomics. Digitally, he also likes to shoot Arri, having used the Alexa Mini, the XT, and the Alexa 65 for large format work. He described working on the Alexa 65 while shooting the Revenant. The images had the immersive and experiential qualities we had imagined at the very start. Not a representation of the story, but reality, as if you were there, looking through a clean window. For years, he's shot almost exclusively on the same lenses, Zeiss Master Primes, or at times the older Zeiss Ultra Primes. These lenses produce a super clean, super sharp look with minimal distortion or aberrations of any kind. Although in his older work he's shot with a range of focal lengths, his newer work favors wide lenses, especially the 14, 18, 21 and 27mm Master Primes. Shooting these lenses at a deeper stop, such as at 5.6, as opposed to wide open at t1.3, also helps to preserve the sharpness and clarity of the image. For a similar reason, he also chooses to shoot without filters whenever possible, apart from a neutral density filter or a polarizer for exteriors. Although he's famous for his use of natural light, that doesn't mean he doesn't light at all. Shooting exteriors, he'll utilize a white bounce to add light or a black negative fill to subtract light. When using lighting fixtures, he likes to soften the light by pushing larger sources through a softbox, a textile, or a layer of diffusion. This softens shadows and gives the light a more naturalistic quality on screen, like when sunlight passes through a cloud. He likes to backlight, where the key or primary light source comes from behind the character. He notes, "We also use backlight because it gives a sense of depth, whereas front light is flat." As mentioned before, he's worked with a variety of rigs to move the camera over the years. His movement is often stable and controlled, even when handheld. This is partly due to his tendency for using wider lenses. In films such as Children of Men, they had created a car rig which was able to come through the roof and pan around the car during a long take while driving, and multiple stunts were happening. He's used all kinds of classic grip rigs such as sticks, dolly, steadicam, techno crane. He often uses this equipment in conjunction to create cohesive, motivated, captivating movement. Chivo is a technically proficient DP who over the years has worked on films that have continued to grow in scale, all the way from road trip films to space epics. His ability to create images that are immaculate and immersive has remained, however, unchanged. The creative and technical decisions that he makes on all his films always support the idea of creating an environment for the audience that is so immersive that they can't help but to get on board with the story and the characters on screen. There's an old idea that if a cinematographer does their job right, then it will go unnoticed by the audience, because the audience will be so caught up in the visuals that there'll be no need to be analytical or critical of them. I think Chivo is able to achieve this, creating visuals so strong and compelling that people's consciousness of the image fades away, so that the viewers are just left with the pure experience of watching cinema. Thanks for watching this edition of Cinematography Style. I'll be uploading weekly videos of cinematographers that we all love and enjoy, so if you're interested in this kind of content, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any ideas about future content or other DOPs you'd like to see analyzed, please let me know in the comments and I'll be glad to make a video on it. Other than that, thank you very much for watching and goodbye.